When I first started playing Minecraft, I had no idea of the amazing things people could do with the game. If I ever wanted to play on a server with my friends, pretty much the only thing we would play were minigames on arcade servers like Hypixel or Mineplex. One of these servers was called Shotbow, and although it was an arcade server like the rest, it had one game mode that was my first introduction to taking Minecraft features and changing them completely. While this game, called MineZ, was not the best or most impressive thing I'd ever seen, it did have several mechanics that were mind-blowing to me at the time. As the name might suggest, MineZ was a parody of the Steam name DayZ, a game where there was one goal: survive. Basically, you were dropped into a map with nothing but a water bottle, a wooden sword, and a bandage, a helpful healing item that would give you a few hearts when used. The rest of the game involved exploring a map for loot chests while you were hunted by zombies that acted like they had just drunk about 12 monsters. These zombies would track you based on how much noise you were making, meaning that traveling faster was more likely to get you snuck up on by a horde of them. Oh dear. You could play it safe and stay away from the big cities, which usually had a much higher spawn rate of these zombies, but it was also necessary to loot at least a few of them because they would give you valuable loot, like healing items and food. These game mechanics were really nerve-wracking because zombies could just pop out of a bush without any warning. And the worst part is that if you ended up dying, your loot wouldn't just drop on the ground. Instead, a zombie copy of you would spawn and use your own armor and weapons against you if you tried to get your loot back. In situations like these, you could get your friends to try and help you to get your loot back, but usually your zombie self was surrounded by so many other zombies that it was almost impossible. Looking back at it now, as impressive and fun as this minigame was at the time, it has been majorly outclassed by more modern servers. Which brings me to quite literally the most impressive thing I have ever seen in Minecraft: Wynncraft. Now when I say this project is impressive, I do mean impressive. There are hundreds of things to do over a ginormous map, and you can have fun in so many different ways. Are you more competitive? Are you more laid back? Well, it doesn't matter because there's something for everybody to do. But how did the server get to this point? Back in 2011, there was a small YouTube channel called Crafted Movie, run by a player named Salted. This channel, as small as it was, had enough of a backing to make its own Minecraft server where Salted built up a tight friend group including people like Joomla and Grian. Yes, that Grian. One day, Salted got the idea to make an MMORPG Minecraft server, and after dragging his friends into it, as well as 6 months of work, the first iteration of Wynncraft was born. Even in its very basic state, the server was well received, with many donating money towards its development. At the time, you could only get to level 70 with actual content ending at level 40, but the admins did not stop work on improving the game. Just a quick side note, I did say that level 70 was max, but you could technically get to level 71 with a glitch. All you needed to do was get the total amount of XP from level 1 to level 70 again, so only the super sweaty gamers went after it. One thing I love about this server is that the admins decided to keep little things like this in, and it's still a feature today. Hey, look at me, I got level 106 after 20 billion hours of grinding. Are you proud of me yet?
No.
Now, I could take like 5 hours to tell you what was added when and all the different updates, but I'm not going to do that because it's super boring and I like watch time, so I'm going to leave a link in the description which has all the history stuff for anybody who wants to read it. I'm going to move on to the actual gameplay and why I like it so much. When you load into the map for the first time, the first thing you'll notice is how beautiful this map is. Like, does anybody remember that old Herobrine's Mansion custom map? Well, imagine taking that detail, adding all the modern blocks to Minecraft, and then expanding it by like 1,000 times. Remember how I mentioned that Grian is one of the admins? Well, he's known for building, so if this map isn't beautiful, I don't know what is. Seeing as this map is totally custom, there are also tons of secret locations, quest areas, bosses, and just so much more, but we'll get to that. Just be patient. You can't have everything at once. You probably haven't even subscribed and rung the bell yet. It's free, you know. Moving on, a good game can't just have good looks though, it has to be fun to play too, so what do we actually have to play the game with? Good question, random person I made up in my head. Right before you spawn in, there's a little menu where you can choose from a total of 5 different classes to use on the server. First off, you have your warrior class with high attack damage and defense. Next you have the assassin, a slightly speedier build that sacrifices some of its defense for attack damage. That's followed by the archer, your long range class that does decent damage but has the health of a wet spaghetti noodle. I'm not joking, if you get near anything, it's just say goodbye. And then you have the mage. This is the class that I main, and while it has average stats on mostly everything, it is super powered in just one: spells. Now I saved mentioning spells for now for one reason. They are so overpowered. I mean, just look at what some of these things can do. It's insane. It's also just super impressive to see something like this implemented into a vanilla Minecraft server. Like literally, this is just like armor stands or command blocks or something. I don't know how they do it. Of course, you can get armor that buffs your main attacks instead of spells, but where's the fun in that? I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather use a bunch of cool abilities instead of just clicking my mouse for 10 minutes. Okay, I'm editing this video right now, and a couple days ago, Salted actually came out with a live stream about how they're going to change up spells a little bit. Generally, it looks like it'll be the same, but they're going to be changing up how you get the spells and how a couple of them look and work and stuff, so just keep that in mind. But back to the video. Now, the Mage class takes the idea of spells and runs with it, having crazy cool ones like a heal and a teleport spell. Now, I know this makes it sound like the Mage is wildly overpowered, but the dev team has actually done a great job balancing this with each of the 4 other classes. But that brings me to the final class, Shaman. This is the class that I would tell you to choose if you wanted a challenge playing through the server because it plays completely differently from the other 4. With the other 4 classes, you're generally going to be looking at an enemy, clicking it, or using spells to deal damage, but with the Shaman, your entire playstyle is built around your totem spell. When you use this spell, it chucks out a giant stone pole looking thing that deals a little bit of damage to enemies in its radius, as well as healing you for some health. Now you might think this sounds fine, you get passive healing while attacking the mobs around you, but trust me, this server makes it a challenge. Unlike a lot of other servers, Wynncraft is more focused on boss mobs versus swarms of mobs, which is what Shaman is suited for. Even the Shaman's other spells are built around the totem spell, with one of the abilities dealing damage around the totem and another one pulling you towards the totem. Even though it's a bit of a challenge at times, this class is still very fun to play and you can get through most of the game without much trouble. But what's the goal of this game? Well, it depends on your individual playstyle. On the most basic level, your goal is to gain XP in order to level up and be able to use more items that do more damage and have cooler abilities. That being said, there are 2 major ways for you to gain XP, quests and killing mobs. Killing mobs goes exactly how it sounds like, where you can spend some time at different grind spots around the map to get yourself a few levels, with different areas of the map giving better or worse XP based on your level. The other, and in my opinion, much more interesting way of leveling up is quests. You can tell that the Wynncraft team has put hours of time into making each and every one of the 262 quests unique and fun to play. Whether it's getting ingredients for Budget Gordon Ramsay, defeating the leader of a secret organization trying to take over the world, getting bids on illegal items in the city black market, or eating one too many, shall I say, special mushrooms, and then going on a magical trip through a rainbow forest and then meeting a talking frog. What is this quest? Okay, yeah, that one's a little bit weird, but it's still fun. Of course, there will be times where you don't quite know what to do or where to go, but generally your quest book does a great job of telling you what to do. Also, the map has tons of little trails and little clues about where you're supposed to go in most situations. These quests are so interesting to go through, and while grinding mobs is a little bit faster, quests feel amazing to complete, giving you tons of emeralds, the in-game currency, as well as armor, weapons, and accessories that can help you survive further into the game. Speaking of items, the server has literally thousands to choose from. You can build your character in any way you want, focusing on anything from spell damage to main damage, walk speed, higher defense, literally anything. This is one reason I like the server so much, is that there's just so many different ways to play with so many items. As for getting these items, they're usually dropped by mobs or found in loot chests around the map, in the form of an identifiable box that can be opened for a few emeralds. Once identified, the item will have random stats, so if you get a really good roll on a really good item, you can choose to sell it on the public trade market with the best endgame items going for more money. With the best endgame items going for more money than a gallon of gas in the US. But what's the point of wanting the best armor, you might ask? Well, the answer comes in the form of the many server boss fights. I do have to say that Wynncraft has the best boss fights I've ever seen, and they're a big reason I wanted to make this video. There's nothing more satisfying than going into an endgame boss and finally beating it to get the rewards it has. And the best part is, there's so many to choose from. The most generic type of boss you might see are boss altars. Basically, these are activated by collecting a certain amount of item that spawns from mobs nearby. Once you get enough of the item, you can activate the boss altar, fight the boss, and get a pretty good item for that level. There are currently 14 different altars ranging from level 20 to level 101, but by far the most interesting is the level 101 bottomless pit boss. This fight is genuinely terrifying because the boss drains you to 1% health every 5 seconds, leaving you completely vulnerable to any attack. It's generally a really good idea to have a bunch of health regen for this fight, or just be a mage because it has heal spell. I told you mage was OP.
Heal spell spam.
Wait,
Each of the other altars have their own gameplay elements that you have to watch out for, like the level 99 boss Orange Weibel. Basically, you fight this boss in an arena filled with pressure plates that if you step on them bring in tons of extra mobs to distract you. As for other challenges, the second type of boss you will encounter are from dungeons. Basically, the idea of a dungeon is that you need a key to get in that is dropped by a special key guardian that spawns nearby. Key guardian that spawns nearby. Once inside, there will be a mix of puzzles, parkour, or mini-bosses followed by a final boss. While many of these dungeons do have special mechanics or ways to kill the boss, the most impressive of these is the dungeon called Eldritch Outlook. This dungeon starts out with some average mini-bosses and parkour, but the highlight is the final boss, the Giant Eye. There are so many things to keep track of in this fight, including features that can one-shot or trap the players if they aren't careful and well prepared.
You failed!
This dungeon is so hard that being able to beat it by yourself is a huge accomplishment. But okay, that's not enough of a challenge for you, I see. Well then you need to check out the Legendary Challenge on Legendary Island, a giant gauntlet of 10 of the hardest bosses in the game that you have to beat in one try in order to get the best rewards. If you die at any point along the way, you lose all your progress as well as the money you put into it. As the in-game story says, Dr. Legendary traveled all around the world to find the strongest characters he could so that he could improve their powers in every way possible to create the hardest challenge ever. This basically means he took a bunch of already strong bosses from quests and stuff and fed them mega steroids until they're more powerful than Thanos. Except for this one, it's just kind of a sleeping simulator. There's also a bit of dialogue somewhere about him wanting to improve the boss Kira from the Kira Hive, but decided not to. Something about her threatening him with a fate worse than death or something generic like that, I don't know. Wow guys, she must be from Cleveland.
Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Under construction since 1868. See our river that catches on fire.
Once you beat the entire challenge, you get some tokens which can be traded in for some of the best items in the game. But there is one more thing that makes this entire fight look like Wii boxing. Much like in other games, raid bosses are events that require multiple players to start. Not only are they the hardest challenges in the game, with even the best teams losing some raids, but they give absolutely incredible rewards. There are currently 3 raids on the map, 2 if you exclude this one, it's kinda average to be honest. But the other 2, the Canyon Colossus and Orpheon's Nexus of Light, are absolutely incredible and require the strongest armor you can get. Once a large enough party starts the raid, they will be teleported to 3 random pre-boss challenges. Each of these challenges aren't too hard, but are followed by a room which rewards you with a random buff which are absolutely crucial to beating the final boss. Each of these buffs are insane, and without them you'd literally die in about 2 seconds. After you are finally able to beat the hardest and craziest boss of your life, you can finally claim the loot chest and gain some really nice rewards, including the new tome items that give your characters permanent buffs. Now I feel like I've done a pretty good job at making the server sound cool, but there has to be a downside, right? And I mean, it can be laggy sometimes, but that's just like any other server. But you know what it does have that other servers don't? Epic music. I mean, just listen to this. It's note blocks, but yet it sounds so good. As long as the server's not lagging, because then the music kind of lags, but you know, we just ignore that part. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not, this is such an impressive thing to pull off in Minecraft without any mods needed to play. You could literally load up the IP right now and start playing as long as you have Minecraft. You technically don't even need the texture pack, but it would be kind of confusing playing without it. Now, I'd really recommend playing the server, especially if you only play on minigame servers, because it's a great look into a game that has more story as well as tons of lore. Oh yeah, did I not mention there's lore? Yeah, I bet Game Theory could make a bunch of videos on this server. Anyways, if you enjoyed this peek into my favorite server, you might enjoy my Discord server in the description. Also check out this video where I got the maximum speed possible in Wynncraft. Thanks for watching.